Good to see you, everyone. Yet Ethel Branchiansha, Bipotoni Nashla, Nakai Bashas Chin, Sitnajani Dashache, Otto Nakai Dashanella, East Kenyan Diablo Det Nasha, and Kintana Kehashche when I'm not in Window Rock, which is rarely that I'm not in Window Rock. And Shea Deneba Washington Bit Agatit Aitso. Very honored to be the nation's Attorney General and to be here with all of you and to be a part of President Nygren's leadership team. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's almost our 1-year anniversary. So I think many of you know, you've probably seen the post on my Facebook page that there's going to be an address to the Navajo people on the state of the nation by President Nygren and the division directors next week to report on all the great work that our team has done over the course of the last year. So I hope everyone will tune in for that. There will be more information about that in the forthcoming days, but it should be a really great event. And today I'm going to give you a little more detail on some of the accomplishments of my team here at the Department of Justice and the Office of the Prosecutor. And I suppose also in the Office of Navajo Hopi Legal Services program, but we are kind of winding that program down as a separate entity and folding that into, we're bringing our staff over into different units at the department. And they're continuing to provide the assistance that they were providing previously, but there's not so much litigation in that particular office that the Office of the Attorney General oversees. So in any event, it's great to have you all here in 2024. It's great to have a new year ahead of us. I feel like 2023 was a strong year, and hopefully 2024 will be even stronger. So, but those of you who joined the President's weekly address yesterday got a little sneak peek of what I'm going to share with you today. And I was trying to give these types of updates every quarter. And I think I didn't do that for the last quarter. So there'll be a lot here that you may not have heard of, or at least have not heard of, all in one place. So looking forward to sharing that with you. And I think yesterday I kind of went through, started with what I thought was most significant and worked my way towards other very, very important things that were not quite as significant. But I think I'm going to start us with our top 10 and work backwards, culminate to what I think was the number one accomplishment for the department for the year. And then if we still have some time left over, I might go through some of our other significant accomplishments from 2023. So what I would consider to be sort of like our 10th most significant accomplishment in the department was the work that the Office of the Prosecutor, the Chief Prosecutor specifically, did to secure better office space for his team. We want to make sure that we're treating our employees well, and a big part of that is the environment, the space that they're working in. And certainly space has a lot of impact on someone's state of mind, their productivity level. And so our headquarters of the Office of the Prosecutor was kind of scrunched into an unreasonably small space. And the Chief Prosecutor has been growing his team. And so we felt like it was appropriate to move them into a right-sized space. And so they were successful in doing that. I shared some information about that previously in a live stream. We gave a nice tour, and I really think it was important in boosting the morale of that team and ensuring that we've been successful in recruiting to fill our major crimes unit, for example, as well as our white collar crimes unit. I think both of those units are almost entirely filled at this point. And the major crimes unit is something that we just rolled out this year. But in any event, it might seem like a small achievement to secure a new office space, but on the nation, that's quite a significant milestone. Number one, being able to find the space that's available, and then number two, the administrative legwork that has to go into that. So I want to give kudos to our Chief Prosecutor for his persistence and tenacity, and I know his team is very appreciative of that. So the aspects of the Office of the Prosecutor that are housed in that new facility here in Window Rock is the Office of the Chief Prosecutor, the Office of the Prosecutor for Window Rock, our White Collar Crimes Unit, our Major Crimes Unit, and our Victim Services Program. And so thank you, Chief Prosecutor, for all that you've done to improve the morale and the work conditions of our prosecutorial staff here in Window Rock. And then another significant achievement, what I would consider the ninth most significant achievement, was the work that the Department of Justice put into listing the nation's improved forest management project with the California Air Resources Board Cap and Trade Program. So this is a really interesting program where entities in California can essentially bank carbon on the nation in our forests. And in exchange, the nation receives funds for that. And this is going to be a really important new source of revenue for the nation. We're expecting it to be quite a significant source of revenue, in fact. And so all of the things that needed to be done to put that into place on the legal side, on the legislation side, were completed in 2022. And then we entered into a carbon development and marketing agreement with an entity called ANU. And they helped identify and create sort of the market for our offset credits in accordance with the California Cap and Trade Program. And so there were some administrative things that had to be done to get to the point where we would actually be listed with the California Air Resources Board. And so the president played a pivotal role in that, pulling together meetings with the highest level of officials in the Department of Interior. And our Natural Resources Unit, AAG, did a lot of the legwork behind the scenes. And we were able to join the president in those conversations and get the letter that we needed from Interior to move forward with our listing. And that was done relatively early in the administration. But that was a very significant accomplishment. And I'm thankful that the president made that a priority and got us to where we are now. And hopefully this will be a revenue generator for the nation in 2024. The eighth most significant accomplishment is the work that my Economic and Community Development Unit did to assist in amending the Navajo Procurement Act and the Navajo Business Opportunity Act. Both of those pieces of law were very outdated. There's a lot of confusion among programs and private entities on how to correctly apply the Procurement Act and the Business Opportunity Act. And so the amendments really just cleaned up the law and harmonized the two laws so they work together more effectively. So people, the public, anyone wanting to comply with those laws would have an easier time of a better grasp of what the requirements were. So those amendments provide the clear guidance that everybody needed. So looking forward to that, hopefully speeding up the procurement process and giving more flexibility in how programs are able to procure for goods and services. One of the key amendments was the micro purchase amendment that would allow for quicker procurement of goods and services under $10,000. So that was a very significant accomplishment in removing red tape to allow the nation to operate more quickly, more trim, like other governments in this country. So hopefully that modernization goes far. And of course, the thing with the Department of Justice is anything that we do is always a team effort. We very rarely are doing something independent of a division, department, or other a client of ours. Usually we're assisting a client in doing something, and there's programmatic pieces of the work that the division or department or the president's office is doing. And then we bring in the assistance on the legal side, whether that's drafting or research. So these are all, not just accomplishments of the Department of Justice, but of the nation government as a whole. So the seventh most significant accomplishment for the department is with respect to the chief prosecutor's purview again. He's just been a real rock star this year. But for about 30 years, the Division of Public Safety and the Department of Corrections specifically has been limiting the hold for crime offenders to 8 hours after arrest. So after the 8-hour point, people get released. And we would hear some really sad story. I mean, this had a demoralizing effect on our police. For example, I would hear stories of officers picking someone up at the beginning of their shift, and then as they're leaving, wrapping up their shift, they would see that person being released. And that was especially problematic with respect to violent crimes and more serious crimes. So all of the investigation that could be used as a basis to hold someone beyond the 8 hours had to be completed in that time frame. And that's really a very short time frame. And so that also led to, decreased safety in the community to have perpetrators released so quickly. So what the chief prosecutor did was just reassess the analysis, the guidance, the directive that was issued by a previous chief prosecutor, saying that we could only hold people for 8 hours. And so kind of the background on that was, for a period of time, there were some safety challenges in the nation's DOC facilities. And so there's a lot of work that was done in the early 2000s when I was starting out as a public finance attorney, actually, and was representing the nation as their bond counsel. I worked very closely with Dolores Gray Eyes, who leads the Department of Corrections, to pursue ARA funding, American Reinvestment and Recovery Act funding, to finance these new detention facilities that would meet modern day health and safety requirements. And so we were able to finance facilities in Tuba City, Crown Point, Kayenta, Chinle, and I think there were 5 of them. I can't remember where the other one is. But in any event, with those new facilities in place, a lot of the health and safety concerns have been addressed. And of course, we've had the older facilities at Shipwreck and here in Window Rock shut down as well, or sort of have found solutions to move inmates to other facilities in order to address the needs in those communities. We still do need to have new facilities in those communities, but the point is that now when someone is held in a DOC facility on the nation, they're not in an overcrowded environment. There are not the same safety issues that existed in the past. And so there's really no need to limit the whole time pursuant to that previous directive from the former chief prosecutor. So the current chief prosecutor, Vernon Jackson, did a reassessment and determined that we can go back to the 18-hour hold that is allowed under Navajo Nation statute. So that is going to be really interesting to see the effects of that in terms of diminishment of crime on the nation. So really, really thankful for him giving that issue the attention that it deserved, and also looking forward to the impacts that that's going to have in strengthening safety in our communities and ensuring that folks are being prosecuted timely, and that our officers have the time that they need, and our investigators have the time that they need to develop a case to keep someone off the streets if they present a safety risk to the community. So very, very thankful for that pragmatic approach to this challenge. And then the sixth most important accomplishment of the department is also out of the Office of the Prosecutor, and that is the creation of the Major Crimes Unit. At some point, I'm going to have the prosecutor's office present. We'll probably do a month-long series with them. And one of the things that they're going to present on is a 2002 report that one of our current attorneys actually completed when he was a law student. And that's a report entitled Federal Declination of Prosecution of Major Crimes Within the Navajo Nation. And that report has some pretty shocking revealings. Number one, well, it did an assessment of the federal prosecutions within the three federal districts on the nation. So the U.S. Attorney's offices are the offices that prosecute major crimes on the nation. And they are headquartered out of or associated with each of the states. And so as the nation, straddles three states, we have three U.S. attorneys that we work with, three federal prosecutorial teams. And so when the federal prosecutors get a case referral, then they'll assess it, they'll investigate, they'll collect evidence, and then they'll make a determination on whether they're actually going to prosecute or not. What we looked at in this report was how often they were deciding not to prosecute, how often they were declining to prosecute cases. The report revealed that 32.5% of child sexual assault cases were being declined for prosecution by federal prosecutors, and 21.5% of homicide cases were being declined. The other high area of declination was in aggravated assault cases. So obviously these are cases that we want and need to be prosecuted. And so we've been able to use this tool to advocate with the feds to strengthen their prosecution and the effort to secure justice for victims on the nation, particularly of these major crimes. And so this has helped prompt conversations with the U.S. Attorney General, his Associate Attorney General as well. And it prompted the need within the nation, the Office of the Prosecutor, to actually create our own Major Crimes Unit. And what we're doing with this team is we've hired 3 prosecutors, 2 of them who are Navajo, and they are going to go after those cases the feds are declining. The child sexual assault cases, the homicide cases, the aggravated assault cases where justice is needed. And so we're really, really excited about this. And unfortunately, 2 of our new prosecutors are still awaiting being sworn in to the Navajo Bar Association. But I mean, they're ready to go. As soon as that swearing in happens, they can hit the ground running. We do have one that is sworn in presently, and they have legal support staff. I think there's only 1 vacancy in that unit at this time, and I think we've interviewed someone that we're offering the position to. So this unit is going to get a lot of work done in the coming year. I'm very, very hopeful for what they'll achieve and the amount of safety that this is going to improve in our community. And so very, very appreciative of the chief prosecutor and his team for their work in that area. The 5th most significant accomplishment was the president's standing up of Operation Rainbow Bridge, which the department and myself in particular played a role in. In the incident command, I'm one of the liaisons for Operation Rainbow Bridge. And what we were able to do, when I came in as AG last year, this was one of the first issues that crossed my desk. But we didn't have, I was asking, okay, these are really serious allegations in terms of how this scheme is working and what is being done. So I wanted to talk to someone who had a firsthand, even a secondhand account of what was happening. And it was really challenging to get that. So when the state attorney general, A.G. Mays, and the governor made their announcement in May and really, exposed what was happening, and back that up with investigations and interviews and additional evidence. That was something where we felt like we really want people to know. This is now we have a better sense for the scope of what is happening, and how this scheme operates and how our people are being targeted. So one of the things I did as liaison was really help amplify that the voice behind that information, and to make sure that our tribal members would be aware of what was happening and could play a more proactive role in protecting themselves from getting sucked into a scheme like that, and not only themselves but their families as well, and their loved ones. And so we were very successful in raising awareness not only on the nation but across the United States about this issue. And that's really important because we did get the attention of some folks in Congress, and we're continuing to build our knowledge, and our advocacy. I have folks that are working on proposed changes in federal law, state law, and state regulations. So, we're trying to create the solutions to this problem so that what the absence of a protective framework no longer exists. And it's very complex because there's layers of federal law, there's layers of state law, there is a tribal law aspect as well. And so all of that is underway, and we continue to work with partners. We had a law enforcement summit that I hosted in October just to make sure that all of the law enforcement entities, it had been a while since we were all in the same room. And I wanted to make sure all the right people were talking to each other, sharing information, collaborating. We use that as an opportunity to reemphasize that, this is not just a financial crime. This is a human crime, and it's impacting real people, Navajo people primarily. And those people deserve justice, and they deserve protection. And you guys probably saw the 10 recent indictments that happened in December. And that to me was really wonderful because that was actually an undercover operation by the AG's office, AG Mays' office, where they invited people, some of these bad actors, in to essentially sell their patients. And as they walked in for their interview, they were arrested. And that's where these 10 indictments came out of. So we are very happy to see that the advocacy that we've been making about how, this is not just a financial crime, this is a human crime. We're really happy that AG Mays and her team have taken that to heart, and are implementing that in their prosecutorial strategy and ensuring that people who are committing these crimes against our people are being held accountable. And so very, very thankful to be a part of Operation Rainbow Bridge. We have an awesome team. Commander Cody is absolutely wonderful to work with. And we have Director Russell. Director Russell for Department of Health actually worked with the state Department of Health as well. And so she brings a lot of knowledge and experience to this position, and knows who to talk to, knows how to navigate the state legislative process to make sure that the regulatory protections that we need put in place at the state level are moving forward. So it's been such a joy to work with both of them, and Dr. Branzer and Mary Deschini Reyna, Daryl Yazzie, the folks in the incident command, and the frontline folks as well. It's been a large operation, and the police department has been involved as well. Our criminal investigators have been involved. Our police department actually had a field team activated in the Valley right after the initial enforcement action happened in the middle of May. They operated for about 4 weeks, and they were able to assist 187 Navajo tribal members. They were literally just walking in the streets and, checking on people, making sure that they were okay, they had water, and if they were just recently displaced from the enforcement actions, that they were being connected to the state's 211 resource that would help them find housing, as well as a transition and care if that's what they wanted, or transport back home if that's what they wanted. So, and then we also have a hotline just to make sure that no one's slipping through the gaps. We have the 855 Help ORB hotline, and through that hotline and through our on the ground headquarters in the valley, we were able to provide assistance through the end of November to 882 or 882 times. Some people came back multiple times. So that has been really, really successful. And it's been very complex in terms of integrating with the state's response, making sure that response is working for our people. And then, shoring up where there are shortfalls, making sure, for example, Behavioral Health Services runs a shuttle back and forth from the valley regularly, but they also are collaborating with Northern Arizona Victim Witness Services. So it's really this massive team effort to make sure that our relatives who've been displaced or impacted by the healthcare fraud in Arizona are getting the help that they need. And then I'll take a quick sip of my water here. Also going to quickly scan to see if there are any questions. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, actually, let's take a little break, and I'm going to look at your questions here. So hi, Priscilla. Thank you for joining. And Doris, thank you for your comment. And she's appreciative of the upgrade in the procurement procedure. Let's see. Yes, I'm sure it's needed at the chapter level. Absolutely. We have Morgan thanking Chief Prosecutor Jackson. Yeah, I agree. Morgan says whole time is the time for the person to think about what they've done. Well, I'm a lawyer, so I have to say presumed innocent until proven guilty. But in the event that they are guilty, absolutely. Yes, we are blessed to have Mr. Jackson as our chief prosecutor. Let's see. We have a comment from Doris about child services. Oh, dear. Okay. All right. So we'll focus some attention on, she's just saying, oftentimes teen runaways are not actually runaways, but are seeking safety from an abusive home environment. Okay. And she's highlighting the need for mandatory parent training, especially with respect to alcohol abuse. Okay. Thank you for that, Doris. And, I read all your comments, guys, and it definitely feeds into the work and priorities and where we focus our attention. So you guys are kind of the eyes and the ears on the ground, helping us make sure that government is working the way that it should be. Okay, Haspa Rose says, thought this was Navajo Nation President's Report. That's actually going to be on Tuesday, and it's going to be a whole day affair. My understanding right now, and it's just based on a draft agenda, is that the president's going to give his address at 10 o'clock. It's going to be at the Nakai Hall at the Navajo Nation Fairgrounds in Window Rock. So I hope many of you will be able to attend. That's going to be really, really great. The president's going to be reporting on the accomplishments of the administration as a whole, and then he's going to have some time for each of the division directors to go through their accomplishments at the division level. So definitely be a part of that. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be virtual. I'm sure that it will be. Much of his stuff is virtual. Let's see. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for your comments. Really appreciate your engagement. And I have confirmation here that thank you, Kevin, for confirming that the State of the Nation will be streamed live on Facebook. So those of you who are watching, keep that in mind. And it's also going to be on the radio stations from 11 to noon. So that suggests to me, what I understood is the president was going to be presenting at 11. So I think that's probably right, that he'll be speaking at 11. So, but please tune in. Again, it's going to be pretty much an all-day thing. So in the afternoon is going to be the division directors, but I know the speaker is going to be there as well, and the vice president will be sharing remarks as well. So there'll be a lot going on, and it'd be wonderful if you all can join. And it's just a great chance to reflect and learn what has happened the past year, and learn about the priorities going forward as well. So, okay, now I'm going to turn back to the accomplishments of the Department of Justice from the past year. Okay, so now we're on the final 4 of the top 10 accomplishments for the department. So one of the key priorities of the president when he came in was to lift the COVID restrictions that were impairing our small businesses' ability to earn income, and for our entrepreneurs to make a living and support their families. And additionally, there was a lot of pause in government that happened during the pandemic, and especially at the chapter level, where people really need to be receiving their basic services. And so lifting that closure was a high priority of the president. And so the attorneys in my chapter unit were able to assist with that. They were able to work with Department of Emergency Management and the Emergency Management Commission to put together the pieces that needed to be put together to roll those restrictions back. And there was a lot of law that had been passed to put in place those restrictions. There was legislation, there were orders, executive orders, and orders from Emergency Management Commission. So it was a pretty complex process, but we were able to do that. And let's see. And we were able to, that unit in particular, the chapter unit, was able to provide a lot of training at the chapter level to help chapter employees do the things that they needed to do to fully reopen. And so the Commission on Emergency Management deactivated the state of emergency on June 15th. So kudos to Roderick Begay, our chapter unit AAG, and his team for helping move that forward, and tremendous appreciation to the president for making that one of his highest priorities when he came in. It's been really great just to see, the re-enlivening of the Navajo economy, the vibrancy of our flea markets back in action. And it's just been really nice to be able to go to my chapter house and have the doors be open, and know that my mom's able to get the help that she needs with, windmill repairs or trash and all of those basic things that our people need in all of our communities. The third most significant accomplishment of the department was in avoiding a potentially devastating loss in the Supreme Court in the case of Arizona v. Navajo Nation, which related to our water rights. So what happened in that case is we were winning. We had a victory at there's lots of different levels in this litigation. So there's the district court. That's the first court in the federal system that will hear the case. And then there's the appellate court. And here, with respect to this particular case, it was a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that ruled in the nation's favor. And then of course, from there, you go to the Supreme Court. And one interesting thing about the nation is that we are actually located in two appellate districts. So we're in the Ninth Circuit on the Arizona side and Arizona side. And then on the New Mexico side, we're in the 10th Circuit. So that puts us in a pretty interesting, unique position. But this particular case, we prevailed at the Ninth Circuit, and then the federal government and the state of Arizona and a bunch of other states sought to have the Supreme Court review this case. And oftentimes the Supreme Court won't take a case unless they plan to overrule or overturn the lower court decision. And so we were disappointed to see the court take the case. And we had oral arguments in March. And we were able to bring in a Supreme Court specialist litigation team to help us do the briefing and to argue the case in this particular instance. And what the U.S. and the state of Arizona were seeking was to have the Supreme Court rule that the nation had no rights to the lower Colorado River, and that the federal government had no trust obligation to the nation relating to providing water. And so for those of you who are wondering, what do you mean lower Colorado River? Well, the Colorado River is broken into an upper basin and a lower basin. And the divide is at Lee's Ferry. So Navajo actually we have claim to upper basin water in the Colorado River as well as lower basin water. But this particular litigation was with respect to just the lower basin Colorado River water. And of course, most of the Navajo Nation in Arizona is in the lower basin, and that's really where we need water. And thankfully, we're getting infrastructure in on the New Mexico side due to a settlement there. And so those communities will be receiving a lot more water in the near term. But we haven't had the same success on the Arizona side. We had this litigation that we had a specialist argue for us before the Supreme Court, and we ended up with a ruling of 5-4 that there was not an enforceable trust duty. However, there was a trust duty, but it couldn't be enforced insofar as getting the feds to do a water needs assessment, and a plan to meet those needs. And so that obviously was very disappointing. But then there were also some really important silver linings, such as the confirmation from the highest court that the nation has reserved water rights in Arizona, and that the United States holds those in trust, including for groundwater. And then there was also the holding or the determination that the nation could intervene if it chose in the case of Arizona v. California to establish its rights to lower basin water. And Arizona v. California is sort of that major case relating to Colorado River water that has been an important part of the law of the river. And we just had a series in December on Navajo Nation water rights, and our last presentation last Friday was on our water rights in Arizona. And we've had a previous presentation on the law of the river. So if you go to the president's YouTube page and click on the live section, you should be able to find those previous recordings, or you can find them on his Facebook page as well. If you click on videos, I think that's where they show up. So lots of good information. There should also be links on the DOJ education page on the Department of Justice's website. So lots of really good information in those presentations about all of what I just shared with you. And then the second most important accomplishment for the department for 2023 was bringing in $63 million in settlement payment to the nation as a result of our opioids litigation. That was national litigation. We were one of the sovereigns that participated in that, and that really went after opioid manufacturers, distributors, and pharmacies, and essentially said that they were producing way more opioids than were needed, and kind of created the perfect storm environment for the opioid pandemic that the country as a whole is experiencing. And a lot of those opioids were sent to Arizona and New Mexico, zip codes where there are high Navajo populations, or in communities where our people go to get their essential items. And so we knew that there was a huge impact in our community, just even based on that, just based on the statistics. And so we moved forward with that litigation, and that was when I was Attorney General previously. And I'm very thankful that we're now in this position where we're starting to receive those settlement payments. And it's really great to be part of the conversations about how to utilize those funds that have a restricted purpose tied back to, minimizing risk of addiction in our communities, particularly with respect to opioids, but just also in general in terms of prevention, and then also responding to high opioid use in the community. So it's been really great to see those funds start to flow, and there will be additional funds that come to the nation as a result of this litigation, as more and more of the defendants make their payments on what they are responsible for to the court. And then, of course, the number one accomplishment of the department and of Indian country in general really was the tremendous victory in the Holland versus Brackeen litigation, which was that huge ICWA Supreme Court case, which upheld the constitutionality of the Indian Child Welfare Act. We were a direct party in that case. One of the children at issue was half Navajo and half Cherokee, and the tribes had worked out among themselves that child would be enrolled Navajo, and that's kind of how we became a part of that case. And that case arose as well when I was Attorney General previously. So it's really great to see that our litigation team move that forward and be able to secure such a positive ruling for Indian country. And that was a 7-2 ruling. And it just affirmed that Congress had the authority to pass ICWA, and that the act didn't violate the anti-commandeering doctrine of the 10th Amendment. And so ICWA continues to protect Navajo families and Navajo children. So very, very thankful for all of that. There are still things happening in the ICWA litigation world. Hopefully nothing like that anytime soon. One of the questions that the court did not address was the equal protection question, whether the Indian Child Welfare Act violated equal protection under the U.S. Constitution. And so we are, expecting that question may present itself at some time in the relatively near future. There is an organized effort to undermine the Indian Child Welfare Act. And so what we've done internally is we have really strengthened our internal ICWA program. We'll probably talk about this at some future point, but there are lots of little steps along the way. Once a child is identified as potentially a Navajo child, it sets in motion a series of activities. And there were little things along the way that were creating delays and putting us in a more of a reactive position. And so we've done some work on the administrative side, programmatic side, to eliminate some of those little snags along the way to ensure that we're in a better position in these cases, that we're identifying earlier whether a child is a Navajo child, and we're engaging the resources to identify if that child has a family member who can take them in as a temporary placement, or if there's another Navajo person who can take that child temporarily. So that's really, that temporary placement is really, really important. And that's where we run into these issues where a Navajo child is placed with a non-Indian family. And if it's an infant child, there's bonding that happens. And if they're with that non-Indian family for 6 months or more, then the judge, it becomes harder for the judge to say that it's in the child's best interest to take that child away from that temporary placement family. So this is all very complex, but we have a strategy that we're implementing internally to strengthen, again, our ICWA program and make sure that we're in a stronger position in future litigation. And actually, last week, I had an initial organizing meeting with a number of law firms that are helping strengthen our litigation approach with respect to ICWA in Arizona, which is, in my view, ground zero for ICWA. That's where we have most of our ICWA cases coming out of for Navajo Nation. And that's where some of the strongest opponents of ICWA are located. So we want to make sure that we're intervening in those cases as early as we can, making sure that those kids are being placed with Navajo families immediately if there's a need for a temporary placement, and then keeping those children with Navajo families going forward, or Native American families if we can't find Navajo families to assist. So that covers all of our top 10 accomplishments. And I probably should talk a little bit with respect to our water decision, Arizona v. Navajo Nation. What that has done, it has also just brought renewed vigor to our team here at DOJ, our water rights unit, to and this is in alignment with the president's priorities as well, making sure that the basic needs of our people are being met at a minimum. And one of those needs is water. And so I've taken it upon myself to make it my number one priority in advancing the president's platform to settle all of our remaining water claims so that we have actual water flowing in all of our communities. And our water rights unit AAG, Michelle Brown, is just, I don't know where she gets all of her energy, but she currently has 4 settlements that she's working on right now, and she's doing an incredible job. She has an awesome team of attorneys that she's working with to move this forward. The first one is the Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project, which you guys driving along 491, you saw that project go into the ground, and you're seeing it go into the ground between Gallup and Window Rock. Well, that was short almost $1 billion. And so she's been working with a lot of different folks to get corrective legislation to fully fund that settlement. And so that's moving forward in Congress right now. And it is, we expect that that's going to happen. And that is going to do a lot in terms of not only making sure that there's water flowing in New Mexico in the San Juan River Basin, but it's also going to be bringing some water to Utah communities as well. So that's been huge. And then the other settlements that she's working on in New Mexico are the Zuni River Basin settlement, as well as the Rio San Jose settlement. So those are in the works. And actually next week on Monday, she's having public meetings in Tohajale and Rama. Tohajale in the morning, I believe, starting at 9 a.m., 9 to 11. And then I believe Rama's meetings are from 2 to 4, just to share with the local community what those settlements will do in terms of bringing water to those communities. And then meanwhile, she's also leading our Arizona water rights settlement effort. And I've been a big part of that, highly active in those discussions as well, highly active in the drafting, because this is extremely important. And so we've been meeting quite regularly with the other negotiating parties, and I feel like everybody is bringing to the table a spirit of goodwill and willingness to settle. So we are planning to move that settlement forward, and very hopeful about that. And of course, once we have terms of settlement, we'll be doing a lot of education about that. And there's so much. I can't wait for the public to learn more about this, because what this settlement could do in terms of sourcing our communities on Western Navajo with water is tremendous. This could mean water for Chinle, many farms, Kayenta, Tuba City, Loop, Dilcon, Ganado, and also allow that water to flow from Say Benito in the Navajo Gallup water line into Fort Defiance and to Lupton and whatnot. So there's a lot of really incredible things that lie ahead in the coming year. And moving these water settlements to completion is my number one priority as your Attorney General, and is a huge priority of the President as well. He's just been really tremendous, and the Speaker, and members of Council. We actually have 8 members of Council that are part of our negotiation team on the Arizona side, and they've all been just really incredible to work with. So it's just been a real pleasure. I'm going to say in this past year, serving as your Attorney General, this second term, this President has a lot of great energy, great focus, and ability to get things done. I feel like we've done in 1 year more than I saw get done in the 4 years I served previously, under the President's leadership. And so thinking of the next 3 years is really exciting, because we are able to start implementing really, really important things in the next few years. And then with respect to the council, just a really wonderful, highly engaged council that wants to know more, that wants to be involved and is participating in meetings where their leadership and guidance and input is needed. So I remain very hopeful about the great things that we can get done as a nation in the next 3 years. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I have 5 minutes left. So I am going to look at the comments. I think I have 5 new comments. Let's see. Okay. Yes, thank you, Priscilla. Absolutely. There's the videos on water, the presentations we've done on the President's Lunch and Learn on water, as well as land, and in particular home site leases. And then let's see. Okay, some commentary from Doris about opioids. Thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you, Doris, for your contribution, your family's contribution to the Gallup San Juan Lateral Project. That's really great. Thank you. And then we have a comment from Jeremy. I'm sad you feel that way, Jeremy. I think we've made a lot of progress of digging ourselves out of the pandemic. I mean, we saw kind of a total freeze in government during the pandemic that has been very damaging. But we've been able to bring a lot of energy and solutions to this environment. And I feel like, the President's team has still been able to accomplish a lot despite all of the rebuilding we had to do. For example, with my staff, when I came in, when I left, I had very little vacancy in the Department of Justice and the Office of the Prosecutor. And in fact, we had expanded our prosecutorial team. And when I came back, it was back up to 25% vacancy, right? What it was when I first came in. And so there's been a lot of rebuilding. I feel like across the board, division directors and the president have made progress. And so I encourage you to come to next week's State of the Nation to get a better sense for all of the things that have been done in the last year. And there's a lot to be hopeful about and thankful for and to celebrate. So, and then we have a comment from Priscilla. Yes, thank you for your comments, Priscilla. Absolutely. This is a team effort. You know, we all can do something to advance Navajo Nation government, to enhance the quality of our people's lives. And Priscilla is just encouraging folks, you know, to offer to be a foster family. Absolutely, absolutely. And we're actually going to be, as part of our ICWA strengthening program, probably going to be initiating a substantial recruitment drive for foster families here in the next few months. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Let's see. Clarence Hogue has a question of Gold King mine spill compensation to farmers. All of the farmers who filed claims and went through the law firm that I recommended to make sure that your claims would be protected, all of those folks have received settlement payments. So hope that answers your question. And thank you, Seaver. Kudos to you as well. Let's see. You're welcome, Jeremy. You're welcome. Yeah, you know, all of your comments are valid, and you know, I read the negative comments and I take them to heart and think about, you know, what can we do to address that with the discontent that's behind that, and improve government, because that's a big part of our job, right? Government should be working for the people, and so if it's helpful to know when it's not working for the people so that we can fix that. And so I appreciate all of the comments, even though they're not always rosy. And so I think we're coming to the top of the hour. And again, I just encourage all of you guys, please come to the President's Address to the Navajo people. And that's going to be on Tuesday. And I would encourage you to tune in at 10 o'clock or be there in person. It's at Nakai Hall at the fairgrounds. But if you're not able to be there in person, it will be available on live stream on the President's page. So please tune in and remain engaged in Navajo government, and you know, hear from the voice of the, what do they say, the voice of the horse. The president has a lot to get through in terms of, you know, highlighting the accomplishments of his administration for the last year, and then the division directors will be given an opportunity to give short little plugs highlighting what we think are the most substantial contributions we've made. But again, you know, a lot of this it's complex. We're a very large government, and so, you know, we have to do a lot of things together. So these accomplishments, it really is the team accomplishment. It's the Nygren administration's accomplishments as a whole, because, you know, we all have to play a part as a team to address these complex multidisciplinary issues and challenges. So in any event, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you'll join next week as well. And we'll try to get our poster posted a little earlier next week. I apologize. It's been very busy the last couple of weeks, and so I will try to do a better job. Kevin was ready. He was ready, asking me, "Where's the information?" So thank you, Kevin, for being there and keeping this running smoothly. And hopefully I'll see all of you next week on Tuesday. Yeah.